Hello and welcome back to Broomy's Garage. As you can see, it's new project time and well, we've got our work cut out for us. So with the RX-7 essentially done now and racing, that means, well, I don't need to invest a hell of a lot of time into this. Maybe just a couple of hours here and there on maintenance and going over data and a few setup changes. But overall, as long as nothing catastrophically goes too bad with that car, it is done, which is fantastic because it means we can enjoy racing it. However, it means I've got time now to start on this. And the reason I'm making this video and uploading it now is because I need some motivation to get going on this thing. I really have invested the last sort of almost 2 years of my life into building the RX-7, just out of shot right here. And I was almost not even going to start building this in 2022. I just wanted to take a year off, just enjoy racing and not do anything on this car because they do consume so much of your time. And this one is in some pretty bad shape, to be honest. So luckily it's been sandblasted, so it holds no secrets at least, but the story it tells is not overly great. So we'll go over into some more detail very shortly, but why did I buy this? Quite simply, it was just the right price. We've seen prices on early Mazdas or early model anything, or basically anything almost from the early 90s and older, just start to skyrocket during the last couple of years, and this come up fairly what you might call cheap. So I just grabbed it. Didn't even really ask for more photos. I just looked at whatever was on the internet and I just grabbed it. And then yeah, it got here, and yeah, some of it's better than I remember looking at the photos, and there probably wasn't any photos of that side of the car, and this side of the car is an absolute disaster zone. So we'll look at a bit of that in there in a short time. But yeah, the main reason I bought this car was I have a standard car, which is the Jeep, and I don't want to do anything to that Jeep. Maybe do a catback so I can actually hear the Hemi, but that's it. Got the RX-7, that's to go racing. I wanted something that I could cruise down to Burson's or the Nut and Bolt place or Bunnings or whatever on the weekend, but also maybe go on like a drag challenge or a drag challenge weekend or something at some point in time too. So this fit the bill. So looking around it, it's going to be pretty obvious pretty quick that there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. I do have I don't even know if it's most of the parts, to be honest, because I haven't pieced the thing together. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to jump into this thing and start working on some of the real problem areas, the body areas specifically, and get to those first. So let's start from the front back and have a good look at this thing. All right, so starting at the front, the bumper you can see here, it sort of almost lines up, and over here, not so much. I'm not going to be building a top 60 elite street machine car here. I just want it to be somewhat neat, so and reliable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend this bumper, take it off and bend it back a bit, and that'll be good enough as long as the frames are all right, which everything looks pretty good. I have the grille. It's a little bit broken, I think, down the bottom here, but again, I mean, that's a multi-hundred, if not $1,000 part these days, so I'm not overly concerned about that. The bonnet, it obviously needs to be stripped back completely. It looks fairly straight, except for there's a dent and a big crease here, which is where, let me just open it. Whereabouts is it? It's up here. I don't know why it's there, but it's also, the skin's come away from the frame, as you can see there. So yeah, it just needs some cleanup. I mean, there's a rust hole right there in it, but and there's some rust at the front, but I can fix that. I'll get that. Maybe I might get these the two front guards and the bonnet sent off to be sandblasted, and then just see what they're like underneath. It's like it's been painted with a house brush or something here. But this guard's pretty dinged up as well. But I mean, these parts are so hard to find. What are you going to do? I'll strip all this stuff back and see if I can just beat it into being sort of okay. You know, it looks like there's another dent here. My original RX-4 Coupe had a dent right in the same place. They must be really weak in that part of the panel. But yeah, moving on to the engine bay. You know, this is just a 929. So got the 929 crossmember. I've got this in here for, I'll discuss shortly why this string's here. But as you can see, it's been sandblasted, then epoxied. So you know, there's a little bit of surface rust over on that side. You see here that there's lots of remnants of the media that's been blasted, and this feels like there's maybe some surface rust or something there, or it's just the media is almost baked into the epoxy, because what it looks like to me is that it was sandblasted and then without it even being blown out properly, because there is so much sand left in it, that was just blown over with epoxy so it wouldn't rust. So I'd assume that's just sand that's yeah, made its one with the epoxy and that. So overall, I mean, all this stuff looks straight. Yeah, I mean, it measures up corner to corner okay. But yeah, it's all stripped out. Steering rack and everything's still there. Factory piston cross members there, sway bars there. So got some wheels that, you know, they turn and that. So everything's sort of there. This guard again, looks like it's had a bit of it's definitely had a repair patch here, you can see. But again, it's got a sort of a dent right here, which must just be, these guards just must be really thin and weak in this part. Moving on, there's a lot of this, you know, little mice or bites out of it, little rust dots. So what I'll do is I'll take the epoxy off and I'll just get the MIG and I'll fill these up, rather than, it's a massive job to cut all of this out and shape it. I'm not a metal shaper or a fabricator, gun and bodywork guy, so if I can just chip away at it and just put some steel back in there, then you know, here, up here, so you know, I'm not building a car to be, you know, $100,000 show car. I'm building a car for me, and you know, this is the sort of thing that I don't see myself possibly ever selling in the future, or if I do, that, you know, I don't think I'm going to lose money on. And you know, if I repair it with steel and don't just bog it over, if it's had a panel repair put in it, or if it just had weld put in it and then ground down, it's still steel and it's still structurally fine. So I'm going to run with that. In terms of the doors, this door looks actually okay. It feels a little bit ripply. So, you know, the hard thing about just the epoxy on it doesn't really show the ripples, but I mean, with a thin bit of bog over there, it should be fine. The windows need a good clean up and a polish. These door rubbers are obviously all cooked. And yeah, the ones all up here are obviously missing in that, so just need some door rubbers. It doesn't have any door trims, not overly concerned with that. I'll just blast or whatever the inside of the doors. Inside, it's, yeah, it is what it is. It's got no secrets as well, so it looks pretty okay. I would say, if anything, the only points of not of concern, but of looking at that seat rail looks like it's been re-welded, or seat mount looks like it's been re-welded there, perhaps. But there's only a little bit of surface rust there. There's a little bit of, you know, there's obviously some rust and thin spot in the corner here where it's dropped down. You can see how much some of the rust up there has, you know, it's obviously leaked through here so much and dripped down there, but it doesn't exist over in that corner. So this is a point where I probably will cut a square out and patch that there. But this is just surface rust from after it being sandblasted. That's nothing that'll come off with a wire wheel in seconds. Same within here. All this side's all good. This side of the car is actually not too bad. The doors all seem to shut and the panel gaps are pretty good. It's the other side that's, yeah, not so good. So the roof is actually, the roof's really good as well. Now, I have a brand new windscreen, front window. I don't have a rear window, and I haven't been able to find one yet, so I'll just keep looking. hopefully at some point I can come across a new one or even just a decent second-hand one. That'll be fine. But this rear quarter feels really good. Still got the fuel cap and everything. I've got that trim, I'm pretty sure. This is normally where like a light, like a reflector light sits, and they had like a little Mazda badge or whatever here. From what it looks like is whoever owned the car before the guy I bought it off maybe did the repairs, and I assume what he's done is done some very backyard body repairs, which is fine because I'm working in my backyard too, but he looks like whoever's done it's probably about as skilled as I am with this stuff. And yeah, they've just patch welded some stuff in, haven't really finished it, but they've just patch welded it in, gone and sent it to sandblasting and then epoxied it. So you can see stuff like this, you know, that's not finished at all. You know, that's just been welded in, skimmed over with a grinder a little bit and then just sent. So bit of work there, that's okay. I'm pretty confident that I can work on that kind of stuff. So you can see here that's where the reflector used to go, and all they've done is just basically put a piece of steel in there and sent it. There's been obviously repairing the bottom of the guards, and there's a hole down there. So whether I just patch that part or do that whole section again, I don't know. I don't know if Rare Spares actually carry any patch panels or anything for stuff like this, so I'll have to look up and see if there's actually genuine patch panels, because I know those lower parts of the sills down there, you know, if you had a Falcon or a Commodore or some kind of Holden and that, they definitely sell those, because all these cars from back then in the 70s had drainage issues in those spots, and they're all cactus in there. The boot here, that's pretty ratty, so depending what I do with fuel system, fuel cell and that, I may cut some of this area out and make my own custom fuel cell instead of having the one that sits on, you know, I do have the original fuel tank there, and that normally would bolt in right across there. But what I may do is I may just not worry about the spare wheel well and cut out that section and put in some kind of fuel cell, whether it be, you know, like a Raceworks one or a custom make something, but I may put a fuel cell in there instead, and that handles the rust that needs to be ruined there. What you'll see is that this wheel tub looks pretty good, and this one you can already see the waviness sort of there, and I don't know if you can see on the back side of this, but it looks like someone went to town with a hammer. And we're going to see the other side of the car now. Boot's really good. Some tiny holes there, which again can be cleaned up with a MIG. Rear garnish looks pretty good. What I think I'm going to do, don't have plans yet for what color I'm going to paint it. I'm really partial to obviously white cars. I like white cars, so I like the white on black. So my two thoughts so far is either a white car, black grille, black garnish, maybe even like satin black bumpers instead of chrome bumpers, and black wheels for the white on black, or same thing, black garnish, black grille, black bumpers and black wheels, but a dark grey that's pretty popular at the moment. So there's some decent dark greys and some absolutely hideous lighter greys, but there's some pretty nice dark greys out there. So I think those are my two things that I'm thinking about now, but don't know if you've already spotted out of the corner of your eye, but here is the side that, honestly, I don't know. This has obviously had a huge rear hit, and it's had a quarter replacement, but it's like they chose whichever was the better of the two quarters, and this abomination was unfortunately the best one. So you can see here where they've cut and pulled and stretched it and that, and it's got the body line in it, and it's shaped in the right place, and everything seems okay. But as you can see where the cut's been made, again, like I said, they've done the hardcore body work is in, they've cut the rust and stuff out, and they've put other panels in, but I wouldn't say they've done anything other than that. So you can see here, where the cut's through, and then you can see on the other side of here where they've stitched it all, and it ends there. So all this section would have been replaced, and they've just hung the doors, and you see the door here, the panel gap's not quite right. So that's just, you know, there's a bit of room to go here, so I can probably maneuver the door a bit. But yeah, this rear quarter needs a lot of work. So, you know, I mean, here's pretty ratty, obviously, and through here this is where it's like it's been hammered. So this is, getting this whole rear quarter is just basically completely out of the question. There's just no chance I'm going to find this rear quarter. And if I do, it's going to be thousands of dollars. And this is the kind of work that I'm not really overly confident in doing to replace a whole quarter. And if I had a panel shop do it, it'd be at a panel shop for like the next 3 years with nothing done on it. Shout out to all the panel beaters that live that life. And then two, it's going to cost a lot of money. So I don't want this car costing a shitload because I don't have a lot invested in it already. And I want to do this on the cheap because cars like that one over there do cost a lot of money. And if I want to do future upgrades like billet engines and stuff to that, I want to invest it in that car, not so much this one. I just want this to be a cheap one with stuff that I've got on the shelf and that already. So that's basically the rear quarter. This door looks all right except for a little bit of rust there, which you can patch up, but it feels pretty flat. This door, I don't know if you can see it, probably coming up better okay on camera, but it looks like someone's literally walked up and kicked it here, kicked it, like just, it almost looks like the door's kicked in. This door is ruined. I don't think this door's salvageable. I'm not really a panel guy. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that like this line, the whole lot's creased in basically. So I mean, if this line was straight, what I could do is maybe go on the inside of the door and put in like a bar on the inside of it to push it out and then weld it in place and try and get that and maybe use a little bit of filler here and there to hide it. But this door realistically looks like it's absolutely terminated. So yeah, I guess if you've got an RX-4 sedan, driver's side door, front door, and you're in Melbourne, I'd love to come look at it and possibly get it because this is the biggest one that's going to ruin me. So the only other one is the floor looks pretty good, pretty good. But these, whatever these are called, the sills and that or whatever, they are missing. And you'll see on this side too, same deal. Like it's all missing from here as well. So I assume that on the other side, this is all missed, the whole lot's missing, but on this side, it's just this part that's missing. So at least here, I think it's good enough for me to get an idea of all I need to do is weld in the strip across there. And then on the other side, what I'll need to do is make, you know, up and down. So overall, a hell of a lot of work, but you know, nothing that's rewarding comes easy. So I thought by starting this video, it will give me the absolute ammunition to do something with it rather than just coming in the garage and tripping over the go jacks and that all the time, and get motivated and get something happening with it. So the other main thing, and the reason why the string line is here, is engine combination, which is always an absolute hot topic when it comes to you know, performance cars and that. So if they don't have the engine that's designated in them or from the same family, i.e. if you have an old Holden, you put a Barra in it, people crack the SADs. LSs in RX-7s, people crack the SADs and that because the purists get all nuppity about, oh, you know, can't put that in that. So this is a 929, has a piston engine from factory. However, most people would know this is an RX-4. So, and me being a rotary guy, I mean, it almost goes without saying that people would expect that I would be putting a rotary in this. I'm not going to put a rotary in this. So sorry to all those people out there who think this is a rotary channel or something or expecting to see a rotary, but there will be no rotary engine in this car. So why is that? Why wouldn't I put a rotary in it, seeing as I'm a rotary guy? I mean, that goes without saying, wouldn't it? It makes complete sense. It's a small, light car. It's perfect framework for rotary. There's so many parts, you know, it is basically a rotary engine car. Why would I go and go against the grain and not put a rotary in it? Well, quite simply, I've had lots of rotaries over my years. You know, I've had all my performance cars are basically pretty much been rotaries or VL Commodores. So what I don't want, I want this car to be a complete, you know, easy to drive, really sedate cruiser, somewhat quiet even. and have really good manners. So why no rotary? Well, the one thing I really want in this car is an automatic transmission, because I don't want to go rolling through the gears and that. I just want an easy, basic cruiser that anyone sort of can drive. So a rotary with an automatic transmission, to get any form of performance out of it, needs a decent converter. And a decent converter means, it's probably going to be 5,500 RPM plus, something like that. And it's just not a great cruiser in terms of low end torque, the engine. So especially if, the couple of spare engines that I got around here are all Bridgeports too. And as much as people love them, they're just so annoying. And the car park manners, basically, if you didn't put an auto in it, they buck and they move around a bit and stuff like that. And they're a great young person's engine sometimes, or a purist who absolutely cannot see any fault ever with anything to do with the rotary engine. They're great, and I love them. Obviously got them in my race car. So most people who are purists that complain about people doing different engine conversions in different cars have never even driven that kind of engine, or the car for that matter. People who have been, cry about putting an LS in an FD have probably never driven a rotary FD and never driven an LS FD, or probably never driven anything with power either. They probably drive their, mum's hand-me-down 1992 Honda Accord, but they get all righteous on the internet about what engine should be in what car. But for me, it's really going to come down to what the engineer says. I really want a somewhat modern engine, a popular engine. So that means popular in terms of there was a lot sold in Australia, specifically only Australia. It's a country, I don't want an engine from the US or Europe or something that, never sold here. I want cubes. I want big cubes, so it's got lots of low-end torque. And, depending on the size of cubes, I want turbo as well. So it'll really come down to what the engineer says in that. But I think in terms of a short list on engines, realistically, the Barra, of course. In terms of affordability of engine conversions too, the engines have gone up in price so much these days. So, a couple of years ago, an LS with a 4-speed auto or something, even it was like 4L60 or something, might have been like $2,500, and nowadays it's like 8.5, 9+ grand. So it's incredibly expensive. Barras, while they're not $50 anymore, they're also not $5,000. So to get a naturally aspirated Barra, it's not too bad. You probably realistically able to pick up Barras if you look around and wait long enough for a couple of $100 still quite easily, pretty complete. So the Barra is an option. It's going to be a really difficult option. There's going to be some incredible amount of fabrication that has to go onto this in terms of cutting up the firewall and stuff to recess it to make it fit. Other options are like RB30, of course, but even those engines are starting to get harder to find and more expensive. And then maybe 4-cylinder engines, like a large cubic capacity 4-cylinder engine like a Honda K24. They are also expensive in Australia. And more than likely probably like a 3RZ. I don't know how much power a 3RZ can handle standard, but there is a fair bit of aftermarket support in terms of bell housings to fit like a Power Glide or something like that. I don't want to put a turbo 400 in. It's probably going to take a little bit more power away from that I want, and mainly the size of it. They are a big, heavy transmission, and I don't want to add any more weight to this car than we have to, or cut up any more of the tunnel that I have to. Power Glides do work. People think, 2 gears, it must be horrendous. But if you put some cubes behind it, the Power Glides are fine in that. So I don't know if you've got any other engine recommendations, but we did put up a post on the Full Boost group, of course, asking for suggestions. And there were some conditions there. Of course, what happens on the internet, people don't read the conditions and put up whatever suggestions they want. So there's lots of people saying go EV. One of my main conditions was I want to do the driveline in this car, which is engine, gearbox, and probably diff for under 10 grand. So Hilux diff in the rear of these things fit in really well. That's probably $1,000. So I got 9 grand to spend on the engine and transmission, a Power Glide, manual transmission power glide with a balancing adapter from someone, you're probably looking maybe about $5 grand. So I've got $4 grand to spend on the engine basically. So yeah, I mean, consider that when you're posting in the comments below what engine we should put in it. But the reason why I want to go Barra is because also I don't want to make 1,000 horsepower in this thing. 500 horsepower at the rear's max is probably the goal. Even if it only makes 400, I'm fine. It's a nice little light car. I might put a little half cage in the back of it just so it's legal to do some drag drive events if we go to certain tracks that require sanctioning or whatever. But I don't see building this and it running any faster than like a 1050 or something like that. It's not a race car. I've got one of those. It's right there. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to start working on some of the bodywork. So motivation is this video, and the motivation of people constantly asking what I'm doing with it is what will drive me to actually get out here and do something to it. I've got all the parts, I think, almost. So I think first port of call is I'm going to start tackling these rear lower sills that are just absolutely cooked and get it so it's sort of looking right. Then I'm going to start doing these little pinholes. In the meantime, but I am going to engage with an engineer to find out what engine I can actually put in it, because regardless of what I want to do, this car needs to be engineered and road legal so that it's never got any issues at all. And to do that, I need sign off from an engineer. So before I worry about engines and what I want to put in it, I have to see what I can put in it and then make my decision based around that. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. If you've got any suggestions, you've got leads on people that might have the door over there, I would greatly appreciate it. Prefer in Melbourne. It's really expensive to ship parts, and while people might say, yeah, this is really good, you know, by the time they ship it, it's a disaster or whatever. So yeah, if you've got any leads on any of the panels or what we should do or whatever, I'm looking to start amassing the war chest of parts and stuff soon, so we'll get that going. I've got a fair bit of stuff over there still from other cars and other projects, so we've got a fair bit of stuff to go with, and yeah, excited to get into it. So this will be hopefully ongoing for a very, very long time on Broomy's Garage. So if you want to see the restoration, so to speak, of a Mazda 929 and what we do with it, don't forget to subscribe, send it to your mates, tell them to check it out, and yeah, any people that can recommend tips and tricks on how to do some bodywork and that, I'd greatly appreciate it, because this is an area that is well and truly out of my expertise, and I'm going to just point the MIG gun at it and hope for the best. So until next time, hopefully see you at the track with the RX-7. Until then, see you later.